Hi, Misha here, and last time we talked about the Predator Diablo scout ship, and as I said at the end of that video, this time we'll talk about the Predator himself, the original. When I was a kid, he was just the Predator. What species? Predator species. Nowadays, though, they're called Diablo, and he is called the Jungle Hunter because he, well, hunted in the jungles of Guatemala, seemingly more than once. But we'll call mine Kevin because, well, Kevin Hall was the dude inside the suit. Although, as is famously known, Jean-Claude Van Damme was originally in a suit, and yeah, production and everything went a little rocky. So it's kind of amazing he turned out the way he did. And this is again my first NECA figure with encouragement from Fox. I'm going to blame him. No, I really was curious, and in some ways he looks exactly like I kind of pictured him. In other ways, totally not exactly as I pictured him. So let's talk about it. Let's put him on the spinny thing so I can talk for a bit. You know how I do. I actually picked up this stand a long time ago for Star Wars Black Series, but works for him too, actually. And yeah, he's a 7-inch scale, which means he's actually about 8 inches tall. In regular specs for him, he was over 7 foot. Most sources have him at about 7.5 feet, or even a little taller, which for his species, Predator or Yautja, whatever you want to call him, is average. Some of them go 8 foot. The smallest ones are 6 something. Anywho, weight, we don't really know for sure, but 500 plus pounds. Not exactly the bulkiest dude, but yeah. Not really hair color, but what would be thinking is hair called dreads. It's black. And the skin is, well, I've heard rotten banana used to describe it. It was actually patterned after a desert scarab insect. So it's kind of reptilian or insectoid. There's actually a lot of debate if these guys are hot-blooded or cold-blooded. And yeah, starting off, this is the original from the 1987 film. Like I said, production was a little colorful. First, Jean-Claude Van Damme was going to do it. He actually did work for a couple of days and then bowed out, and then we get Kevin Hall. But even before that, there were problems. The initial suit absolutely didn't work out. So they only had 6 weeks to design and build this suit. So it's remarkable they did it all. They actually made 2 of them, 2 suits from foam latex, and it was pretty much a single piece suit. Had a few components like the weapons and the gauntlets that were removable, but otherwise it was just a chunk of latex that you get to put on while filming in the jungle. Fantastic. Of course, the head was a separate piece. They actually made 3 of those, 3 heads. One was open face, so when he's wearing his bio mask or helmet, even though to me it's more of a mask because it just covers the front part of his face. So there was one made for that, and it was open fronted for the mask, and that's just had the back dread part. The second head was kind of a stunt head, a more basic static head for action scenes and longer distance scenes. And then finally the third head was the hero head, which was actually articulated in 9 points, and they could make facial expressions and puppetry. Again, 1980s, so no CGI to speak of, guys. And I'm sure that was fantastic to wear too. The mandibles, the teeth, whatever, were acrylic, and actually the hair, the dreads, whatever, were a single chunk that was molded as one piece and then put on, and they were type of rubberized latex as well. So it really is amazing that it looked as good as it did. At least so I'm told. This is, in a lot of ways, my first look. One thing that did shock me is he's pretty well naked. He's got some loincloth going on. He does have kind of this netting on his skin, and I've heard 2 reasons for it. Some say it's to keep him warm, because if he's cold-blooded, yeah, even in deserts, Others say it's part of his cloaking device, which is pretty famously used in pretty much every Predator thing. And probably both. Why not? Because everything seems to be kind of multi-purpose here. And actually, for a Predator, he's pretty lightly armed and armored, which kind of attests more to him being a seasoned or skilled or blooded warrior. Some say he might have even been an elite, but he certainly wasn't a youngin'. And he seemed to have had experience with humans, too. Another thing that really kind of shocked me is he's pretty much barefoot. I think he does have kind of a simple sandal on. I think I'd get some boots, dude. That's just me. Stickers, thorns, you're in the jungle. You're going to step on things. But, yeah, interesting. Obviously, this is the place to start. And obviously, he is articulated and has features and weaponry. Because, well, he's the Predator. But yeah, he sits pretty well on this here stand. He actually stands pretty well using his own feet. I trust the figure not to fall over. I don't trust myself not to knock it over because, again, blind. But with that said, let's talk about his weapons and equipment and then the Predator film. So starting at the top, we have two pieces that are linked. We have the biomask or biohelmet, which it does filter the air, providing him more oxygen than he would get on Earth. It also supplements his vision. He has that infamous heat vision, but it helps it, giving him zoom mode. It also supplements his hearing and provides data. The most important thing is it serves as a targeting system for his plasma caster, or laser gun, or plasma gun. And it's pretty neat on this. It does articulate in several locations and styles. And this is his most devastating, most powerful, his longest range weapon. Like I said, it does have zoom mode, so it can fire beyond standard visual range. It obviously fires plasma bursts. And, when I got this figure, I at first didn't know, what this was. I thought it was a chicken leg. Turns out it's a blast effect for his plasma. In the original movie, they're blue. Sometimes later on, they can be yellow, like in Predator 2. Maybe blast effects look cool, but when you feel them, it looks like a chicken leg. Even here's the bone. It's broken. So I thought maybe he had a drumstick, a snack for the road. Because, yeah, he's not a vegetarian. I think that's just quite clear. So, yeah, that's his most devastating weapon, long range. The shots can be pretty low powered, just like kind of a sniper shot, or high powered to even knock out armor. They even have armor piercing capability. It is, like I said, articulated. It is kind of almost a fire and forget. It even has a tracking memory. It does kind of move with his head. It's basically like a modern heads-up display helmet for a pilot, a fire and forget missile. So it's kind of interesting that in the 80s that technology didn't really exist, but it exists today. The thing is, for a Predator, that's considered the least honorable way to make a kill because it's usually too easy. On the other hand, this is the most honorable way to make a kill, and the most basic and probably most iconic Predator weapon, the wrist blades, part of the gauntlet on typically just one arm, although later on in Predator media we'll see some with either one on each arm or a three-bladed ghillie dibber. And this kind of surprised me. I didn't expect this to actually articulate in the figure. I can do it here. It does actually have some movement to it. It's just I'm at a weird angle. I'll show you in a bit. Maybe. There we go. I'm trying to be delicate with it, guys. It's actually quite easy to do. I just don't want to risk breaking it. And these were kind of a status symbol. Typically young Predators would get these, but they started off shorter, 6 inches even for training, up to 18 inches. And in the Predator film, they actually articulate. We see them kind of using them as grasping, prehensile things. But yeah, this is the most honorable way to kill. They're a pretty durable blade, about 2 to 4 inches thick, serrated, chopping, cutting. He also uses them as a tool. He probably uses them to cut up a steak for dinner too. And those are really the only 2 weapons that the jungle hunter here has. So we have the least honorable and the most honorable way to kill. And of course, he also has a computer on the other wrist gauntlet. This is a communication system. It's essentially the CPU for the other weapons and his whatnot. One thing I think is neat, it doesn't have the longest charge. It can run out of battery, which makes sense for its size, but it can pretty much recharge anywhere, anyhow. Any type of electricity it can charge with, including like human plugins, batteries. The question is, does he have the adapter for like European and American? And if he's got that, my next question, does he have both Japanese power adapters? Now, there you go. Now, that's something a little strange. You know, West versus East Japan. What was I talking about? He also has some straps and pouches and just, you know, kind of gear. I don't know, some breath mints probably. And that's pretty much his equipment. Like I said, he also has a cloak. But that's our predator as we first meet him. So, the film takes place in 1987. And before it begins, a Green Beret, a Special Forces team led by Jim Hopper, is sent into the jungles of Guatemala. There's a communist uprising, revolt, resistance. They're sent in to take care of them. And they promptly get disappeared, which leads us to Dutch, his team getting sent in, Schaefer. But we actually know that this predator, or at least one like him, had been visiting Guatemala for quite a while and been hunting humans. And to kind of signify that, he comes with a little human skull here, including a kind of ding on the head showing by what happened to him. Depending on the hand you have, you can actually have him holding it. I don't know why you'd want to carry around an old skull, but that's just me. Because the locals have a name for him, basically the demon that makes trophies of men. They say he comes during hot summers. Again, better him than me. I'm not really keen on jungle heat. Jokes, moving on. Anyway, but he does. He likes it. He also likes it when there's conflict, because with the American Special Forces and communist guerrillas fighting, he not only has a lot of military targets, he also can do it with relative impunity because, you know, they're already fighting. Not that he's trying to hide too much. He's stringing up bodies and whatnot. But he is a Yautja. He does have an honor code, as we see. He only attacks armed people, typically armed people that can fight back, not just armed, you know, leaving civilians and people unable to fight alone, although probably very terrified. So now we have Dutch's team sent in, and the events of Predator start up. The original, the good Predator. So let's talk about his kills, how he did them, and, you know, how it played out, and how you can kind of do that with this figure too. And I'll take him off the spinny thing finally, and probably still knock him over. Forewarning. I should point out that the original script from '84 actually just had Schwarzenegger's character fighting with Kevin's monster, but luckily a team was added. And when you have this kind of film, someone's going to bite it first, and that would be Hawkins. He got separated from the group and was stealthily killed with the most honorable weapon of the little claws here. Thump. So that's pretty quiet and relatively unobtrusive, but of course his teammates would soon notice he was missing, and so the second kill was actually made with the plasma caster here. Like I said, it is quite well articulated, and that would be Dutch's buddy from Nam, Blaine. He would be the next to bite it. But now it's on the open, and Mac and others open up, just firing well, kind of like I would, blindly into the jungle. And they do actually manage to hit and wound, but not mortally, the predator. So he retreats to the jungle treetops to use his medikit. They do have a little metacomp thing, as it's called, to regenerate. And that kind of ends the first engagement. The second one would come shortly after, when the team sets up a net trap, which actually works. They catch the predator in it. But he gets out. I mean, he's the predator, so yeah, of course he does. And unfortunately for them, in this engagement, Poncho is wounded, not killed, but wounded. And then after getting out of the net, the predator again escapes and runs into the jungle. Thinking they've got him on the ropes, Mac and Dylan chase after the predator, but he has a trap of his own. He ambushes them, blowing off Dylan's arm with his caster, and then blowing Mac's face off. Just, yeah, straight up kill. He actually pretty much mercy kills Dylan, one-armed, with his gauntlet here, with his claws. And he will go back and finish off the injured Poncho a short time later. And at this point, Billy's just had enough. So Billy challenges the predator to a one-on-one fight, Billy with a machete. And the predator fights fair with his gauntlets, but it ends exactly how you would expect. And the figure actually comes with Billy, because the predator, finding him to be an honorable adversary, takes his spinal cord and head and makes it into a trophy. If he liked you, thought you were worthy, you got that treatment. If he didn't, he filleted your body and hung it up as meat to kind of terrify the others. Also to probably stink up the place. So yeah, this NECA does come with Billy. Say hi, Billy. So now we're down to this Dutch. Anna was sent off in the famous "get to the chopper" line. And so now it's just Yautja Imano, him and Dutch. He's even giving you the one here with his hand. Of course, these do have interchangeable hands. He only has 4. Later ones usually have 5, but that's okay. Some other stuff on here. This one, this arm, feel free to move around. This one's got a hose from the computer going up to the system here, so you can break that wire if you try too hard. Yeah, loincloth. It really does surprise me that he had a loincloth and no boots. Oh well. So yeah, several things happen now in the movie. This is kind of the second half of the, well, third quarter. Yeah, that's how math works. Anyway, third of the film. And the predator's cloak does short out because of water. Also, Dutch finds out by accident that mud kind of shields him from the heat vision of the predator. So Dutch goes out and lays traps throughout the jungle. And then he calls the predator to him, to which he obliges. And the predator first hangs out with Dutch, but then he notices, hey, Dutch doesn't really have any guns left. He's basically got wooden spears, a bow and arrow. About the most advanced thing he has is some exploding arrows, John Rambo style. And this is really where we get a taste of Yautja culture, when he tries to even up the fight. Even though he's a little wounded, he's clearly outclassing Dutch. So first he strips off his plasma caster, but very honorable anyway. This is sometimes called the backpack, and it just plugs in. And then, because every sci-fi film needs a monster reveal, comes the helmet's turn. And you can do the face thing with this figure, which is kind of neat. It comes with a separate helmet or mask, so you can have it in his hand or have him drop it to the ground, as in the film. There's the other head here that has it on. The reason it's not just one you can swap on and off is the mandibles. Actually suggested by James Cameron, the whole mandible look, but there's no way to really get that on and have it look right. So I didn't get my head quite popped on, but you get the idea. Heads come on and off. Just got to move the hair and the necklaces around to get them on. So at this point, it's just an old-fashioned fist fight. Face reveal. And still the Predator, of course, outclasses old Dutch. And you know how it goes. He gets the crap beat out of him for a while. Then using a trap and a weight, he does finally mush the Predator, pinning him, doing damage. And then the Predator did what Predators do. Although in 1987, we didn't really kind of get the MO yet. And this figure can even do that, which is pretty neat. You can pose him on the ground if you want, opening up his gauntlet computer here. It does open up and do the self-destruct scene. Little flappy thing there. Some internal detailing. And yeah, that was his last resort. I've seen it speculated that if he really wanted to kill Dutch, he probably would have set a longer timer or a silent timer or anything not to warn him. So I don't know if it was a serious attempt, because we do know that Yautja just do that anyway when they've been bested. Part of it is an honor system. Part of it is a way to make sure their tech doesn't fall into the hands of others. So either way, he explodes. Dutch escapes, meets Anna on the helicopter. Not in great shape, though. Radiation poisoning ensues, and it's the last we see of Dutch, unfortunately. He doesn't appear in any of their films. But, yeah, this version of the Predator is actually good for pretty much enacting all phases of the film, all the transformations. And he does have all the weapons, because that's really the wrist gauntlets, fists, and casters all this particular Predator uses. So what do you think? I think I had a lot of fun doing this. The retractable blades and the opening computer impressed me. It said this has 30 points of articulation, so pretty good. Earlier ones, I think they had 20. Now, this is all the weapons he used. It said that there were some other weapons made for the film, but not seen or only very briefly seen. For example, the combi stick, which would become very popular for the Predators later, was actually made for this film. The spear gun was made, and both would be carried over to Predator 2. There was also a sword made and even tested out across his back, but it limited the actor's movement and just the dynamic poses of the Yautja, so they disregarded it. And while that particular sword wouldn't be reused again, we would actually see a couple of different swords in Predator 2 and throughout the mythology. So, yeah, bladed weapons continue, which seems to be kind of the MO of these guys. And gotta give props to Stan Winston, who designed this. He was actually working with Arnold on Terminator. Like I said, James Cameron also gave a little input for the mandibles. This particular one just comes with the closed mandibles, but other NECAs have the open mouth if you want that. And you can just swap them out. That's something that seems nice. The hands and the heads are pretty well standardized, at least on the newer NECAs, so good to know. And would you believe me if I said the film, when 1987 it came out, was kind of panned or at least mixed reviewed by reviewers? Yeah, they thought it was derivative, boring, predictable. Yeah, it's an action sci-fi film, but it became a cult classic because even though the reviewers were on it, although Roger Ebert seems to have kind of liked it, it did really well for its budget. Speaking of budget, here's everything this Ultimate comes with. This was $30 delivered. You've got the two heads, the mask. You've got, of course, the removable caster, which is articulated. Little skull, big skull. The chicken leg blast effect. And total of 4 hands. The open creature hands, and then 1 fist for the right hand, and then 1 kind of grippy for the left. And then, of course, the things on his body, the pouches and stuff, which you can remove, the necklace. But anyway, that's the budget for the figure. The budget for the movie was about $15 million, which was actually considered a relatively big Hollywood film in 1986 when it was being filmed. It also only took them from March through June to do principal photography, the main filming, which is down in Mexico. Although June was mostly just Arnold and Kevin kind of doing their mano a mano thing. Of course, later there would be special effects and everything taking place, but basically the film was made in a year or less. It was produced by 20th Century Fox and came out June 12, 1987. And for their efforts, they racked in over $98 million. Not bad for a $15 million budget, even if you figure another $5 million was spent on marketing and other stuff. They not quite quintupled their money, but it was obviously a success. And yeah, kind of explains what it is today. It spawned a lot of memes, a couple of good films, a couple of the opposite of good films, and of course now today kind of blending in with the whole alien thing, which, okay, that actually just kind of started off as a Easter egg in Predator 2. But that's what we got, so I thought I'd share it with you. What do you think? I'm pretty happy. It's a lot of fun doing this. If you could, please do like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha. Catch you very soon next time.